Hello, campers. Welcome to Imagine Spotlights. We're here today on behalf of the ADA and Beyond Type 1 Collab to continue this awesome interview series. Every week, all throughout camp, we're chatting with amazing, awesome, inspiring people living with diabetes. They're going to share their insights and experiences, tips and tricks, and help show us all what it means to live beyond our diagnoses and how important it is to get connected and find community with others affected by this disease, which is, after all, why we're here and why you campers are watching us here. So again, I'm your host with the most insulin on board. I'm Rob Howe. I'm the creator of Diabetics Doing Things. I've lived with type 1 diabetes for almost 17 years now, which, wow, makes me feel really old. And today, my guest is the amazing Austin James. He's a musician and an amazingly talented guy who lives with type 1 diabetes. I'm going to let him introduce himself. Austin, tell us a little bit about yourself and welcome to Imagine Spotlights.
Thanks so much for having me, Rob. So a little bit about me. Like you said, my name is Austin James. I play with my band, The Nomads. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I'm in my 16th year with that. And, it's been great. I'm managing quite well.
Hey, man, I think that's the best way to describe it. I think we're all managing in our own ways. And man, I'm excited to talk to you about not only about diabetes, but about also your career as a musician. That's incredible.
Thank you. Thank you.
So 16 years ago, or you're in your 16th year. So you and I diagnosed about the same time, which is always fun. What do you remember about that time and, how you felt and, what was going on in your life?
Oh, so I was an athlete, double athlete, played soccer and basketball in high school. And I was always, I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but I just noticed myself kind of wasting away, losing a lot of weight, like going to the bathroom all the time, like what's going on? And here I am, like, I'm so thirsty. Let me pound some orange juice, which is probably the worst thing you can possibly do. But, and I was lucky enough to have one of my teammates was a type 1 diabetic. And I said, you know what, dude, this feels a lot like what you have. You mind if I check my blood sugar? Don't share equipment. Don't do that. But I did it. Whoops. It was pretty high. I believe it was close to 600. And they rushed me to the hospital. And you want to talk about an overnight change? 17 years old, my senior year of high school, and that was that.
Man, I think this is just a great case for having friends with diabetes and how important that is. What was your teammate's response when you hit that 600 number on his meter?
Let's go to the school nurse. You got to go to the hospital, man.
Man, it's always so fun to me to talk to other folks. Like, even if we have like completely different backgrounds, completely different, like, trajectories of life, like your story is so similar to mine. I was watching an NBA game because I was an athlete as well. And they were talking about one of the players who was losing weight throughout the season as he kind of rounded into shape. And I noticed that was happening to me as well. I was like, oh, this is fine. I'm just losing weight like Antoine Walker. Little did I know that when you're 16, that doesn't really happen. And, diabetes is certainly like taking a lot of that away from you. So tell us a little bit about your music. You obviously love music and have a passion for that. And, I'm sure that there are some campers who are watching today who have musical interests or passions or play instruments or play in bands themselves. Talk to us about the type of music that you love and also the types of music that you create.
Absolutely. So, I guess a little bit about my musical history. I started playing piano when I was about 4 or 5. My mom gave me lessons. I grew up singing in church. And I started playing the violin when I was 10. Classically trained, like did the whole thing all through high school, and then found my love for songwriting when I went to college. And after my sister passed away, I really started delving into music as my coping mechanism. And thankfully it was a healthy coping mechanism, which is super important. Mental health and diabetes go hand in hand. So those, music definitely helped me with both of those things, which is very important. So I feel like I owe music a great debt But as far as like artists, I mean, man, you want to talk about a wide array of of influences and artists. I mean, anybody from, I'm loving on the new Justin Bieber record. Listen to the deluxe one. All the extra tracks are great too. But I listen to bands like Bad Flower, Fever 333. I mean, I'm a Coldplay guy. I'm a hip hop guy. Give me whatever. If it's good, it's good. I'll listen to it.
Man, that'll preach, man. If it's good, it's good. And I also, we got to give a shout out to Justin Bieber. Everybody hated on Justin Bieber, including myself 10, 12 years ago. And all he did was
Yes,
respond with making banger after banger after banger. And
bangers.
you just got to love that kind of dedication to the craft, man. I'm inspired by it.
Absolutely.
You talked about, and I think you talk a lot about mental health and diabetes and coping. And I think it's really important for people like us to have those discussions, because when you live with diabetes, you're at higher risk for anxiety and depression. And you
Yep.
mentioned healthy coping and throwing yourself into something that can kind of lift your spirits up. Talk a little bit about your mental health journey as it relates to your life with diabetes.
Yeah. So I mean, looking back now, hindsight is 2020. That's it's very interesting that journey there. But I had a full like mental breakdown when I turned 30. Came out of nowhere. I was pretty much comatose. I'm like, what's going on? I'm not this guy. I'm a strong guy. And I noticed it was affecting my blood glucose levels. They were all over the place, and which doesn't contribute well to the mental health, and vice versa. They're really hand in hand.
Yeah, you kind of get stuck in that loop, right?
You do. It was very much a loop. But I had a strong support system, my band, and ended up seeing a therapist, two therapists actually. Campers, I can't tell you how important talk therapy is. Even if you don't feel like you have, issues, it's just good to talk to somebody about anything that pops up in your life, especially when you're dealing with another health issue as well, a physical one. Because mental health can manifest itself physically, and really just drag you down. But yeah, I went to talk therapy, and it saved my life. It saved my music career, and helped me just see things in a different light, and really accept parts of myself that I would have probably hated before, and just loving myself and being okay with the fact that you don't always have to be okay. It's okay if you're depressed for a little bit, or anxious, or if you have some struggles with your blood glucose, or or weight loss, weight gain. I mean, it's important. It's important to recognize your mental health and how it affects your physical health. So they really are married, and it's super important, campers, to make sure that you're on top of your mental health.
And Austin, you said something, man, that just stuck with me. And I also, I'm a huge believer in talk therapy. I think it's great medicine, and it really is medicine in its own way. And I think, like many of us experience stigma from people who are uneducated about diabetes, I think a lot of the mental health stigma and therapy stigma also comes from people who just don't really know and haven't really dug into that,
Yeah.
and they're maybe afraid of it. But you said something, because you identified as a strong guy. You're like, this isn't happening to me. I'm a strong guy. And I just want to say, from one guy who is a strong guy to another, it's so important for people to know and check on your strong friends, check on your people who are, carrying a heavy load, because, with a chronic illness and with, ambitious dreams of, in the rest of your life, no matter how strong you appear, we're all people and we all struggle. And sometimes that burden gets really heavy. And I think it's so important to share that with people around you. And if that's a therapist, or if that's your friends and family or community, your strong friends are people too. And I man, just hearing you say, I'm a strong guy, this can't be happening to me, and then recognizing that it is, and accepting that, and going through that journey is so important. So thank you so much for sharing that, because it's a vulnerability thing. It takes courage
Yeah.
to share those insecure kind of moments.
Absolutely. And the more you talk about it, the less insecure you feel about it. You feel more comfortable sharing, and you know, it's important to share your story because you could save somebody's life.
You can. And, I think, man, just reaching out and checking in with your friends, check on your strong friends, as they
Yes.
say, is something that I'd inspire everybody who's watching this at Imagine Camp to, to do and to look into. Now, kind of back a little bit to the music side of things.
Yeah.
For me especially, sometimes diabetes can inspire you to go down a creative journey. Have you ever, written any songs inspired by living with a chronic illness, or anything, maybe inspired by the feelings that diabetes has brought into your life?
Yeah, I mean, especially for my new album, it's dropping next month. I'm very happy about that. But there's a couple tracks in there that detail my journey with diabetes, coping with that, and also being a father and having my daughter watch me um, have diabetes, and just kind of teaching her to appreciate every moment. Don't take your health for granted. Don't take your life for granted. And fortunately, one of the songs ended up being in a commercial I did for Freestyle Diabetes, which is awesome. So it's nice to hear that song in the background, and that's the one I wrote about having diabetes, and it's just been a blessing, man. It's crazy.
That's so cool that you get to share that journey with your daughter as well. And
Yeah.
I know Father's Day is coming up. This will go live after Father's Day, but for fathers with diabetes, like getting to see a young person growing up, and having those conversations with them about when dad is struggling, or what you can turn when you can turn a negative into a positive. What is that like for you? What does that feel like when you kind of can share that with your daughter?
It just brings us closer together. And she's so caring, and it helps her to be more comfortable with it. She used to get scared, but not anymore. She knows, oh, daddy's a little grumpy. Let's make sure he's checking his sugars. Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, I think it's also important. Sometimes dads get grumpy when their blood sugar is out of whack. And I'm in the same boat.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk a little bit about performance, because a huge part of your life as a musician is performing on stage. And as we know, with diabetes, like, there's a preparation that comes with that. And there's also just being kind of ready for the unexpected. How do you prepare for a performance and ensure that your blood sugars are going to be in range to where you can
Yeah.
perform to your full extent, and not have to necessarily worry so much about going high or low during a performance?
Well, I mean, obviously having a CGM, I'm on the Freestyle Libre too. With the alert system and everything, it's really transformed the way that I prepare for a show. I'll know what to do before I get on stage, and sometimes I'm rocking out on stage, and my sugar will get a little low, and this happened a couple weeks ago at a show, and I had to whisper over to my bass player, "Hey man, can you grab me a soda?" So there's quick fixes there, but yeah, it's something being a performer with diabetes. Just but the technology now has been so transformative and so helpful. I can't say enough about the CGM that I'm on.
Let's talk about CGM for a minute, because it took me a while, because when we were diagnosed, CGM was not as popular and wasn't as widely used, and the technology hadn't quite evolved yet. Do you remember, what drove you to adopt that CGM, and what it was like kind of the first few times you were using it after being on finger sticks for so long?
Yeah. So my bass player Spencer is a diabetic, and he had that the little white sensor, and I was like, what's that, bud? Because I always used to see him tapping his phone on it, and he told me what it was, and I said, I gotta have this. So I must have gone through about four endocrinologists before one of them finally approved it. And it definitely helped uh, save my music career, because all the finger pricking and the calluses, and oh my god, it was so painful. And having the CGM, my fingers got to heal.
Saves those fingers, man.
Save my fingers. I need my fingies to play. But yeah, I can't say enough about it. It's been life changing.
Man, it sounds like you are surrounded by friends with diabetes. And,
Yeah.
I know at camp right now, one of the amazing things about diabetes camp is getting to look to the left and to the right and seeing people who know what you're going through. And I know as we're in our second year of virtual Imagine Camp, and hopefully camps will begin to start coming back here in the next year or so. How important are those relationships with people with diabetes in your life? And, you mentioned, your friend in high school who helped diagnose you. You mentioned your bass player who also lives with diabetes. Like, what are those friendships, and what do those friendships add to your life with diabetes?
Man, you gotta have a diabestie, man. You gotta have one. And the more you have, the better, because that community is really important. It's vital to yeah, once again, going back to the mental health portion of it, just having that support there. So if you're not having a great day, I can, any number of people on Instagram that I follow, you included, just say, man, I'm having a tough time. What are some tips, tricks, strategies? It's nice to have that outlet there. So get yourself a diabestie, a diabuddy, and keep them.
Yeah, keep them close, man.
Oh yeah.
My diabetes group chat, man, it means so much to me sometimes just to be able to vent a little bit about a tough day. And I'm sure, all our campers who are watching this would be able to relate for that for sure. You don't grow out of diabesties.
No, they don't.
They stick with you, and that's incredible. I know you create music, and obviously you have an album out and you're a performer, but you also spend a lot of your time teaching. So tell us a little bit about your teaching background and what subjects do you teach, and what does that bring you as a musician getting to work with other, up and comers?
Absolutely. I mean, to me, it's a way of giving back. Like I said, I owe music a great debt, and being able to teach music, whether that's, instruments or voice or songwriting sessions, which I've been doing lately. And it's fascinating to watch my students grow. And, I've been teaching 7, 8 years now, and just watching some of them be so young and move into high school and into adulthood, and seeing the trajectory of their, of their improvement. You want to talk about rewarding, that's a good thing. And you get closer to some of your students as you teach them throughout the years, and they become your friends, and your little protege. And being able to share diabetes with them as well, what I go through. And it's just, man, teaching has been my way of giving back. I'm lucky. I'm a lucky guy.
Man, the more I learn about you, dude, the more I like about everything that you're doing. This has been an uplifting conversation for me today. So I just want to thank you for that.
Oh,
and we're not quite finished with the interview yet, because I definitely want to talk about you have your new album out, or it's coming out soon. And obviously that takes a great amount of effort and energy and passion, and, late nights and long hours.
okay.
Talk a little bit about, your new project, and where obviously where we can find it once it releases, and for those of us who want to listen to it and support you, but also is there a favorite project in your career that kind of sticks out to you, and how is this new album part of that?
I would definitely say this album coming out has been my favorite. It's been about 2.5, 3 years that we've recorded it. There's 15 songs on it. Big album. It's called Colors and Changes. Shout out to my band. Shout out to my producer Annie. She's been phenomenal. But being able to record this during COVID in my home studio definitely kept the momentum going, and it saved this album. But yeah, when it comes out, when it drops July 30th, it'll be everywhere: Spotify, Apple, iTunes, whatever you listen to music on, it'll be there. And we're gonna do a run of vinyl copies too. So if you're a hipster like me, you get your hands on one of those bad boys.
Gotta get that vinyl cut. Gotta get that
vinyl cut. Oh yeah. But yeah, it was quite the undertaking, kind of putting the producer brain on, and instead of just being in that artist mode. So you want to talk about creating, it was composing and creating and recording and cut after cut after cut, a lot of late nights, those 2, 3 in the morning when you can't stop working. but I can't wait to share it. I can't wait for people to hear it. It's a lot of fun. There's something for everybody in this album.
And you mentioned, doing this during COVID and how that was different from a normal experience of recording an album. Did that make it more intimate to be able to do it in your home studio, like with your close group, and your
Yeah.
bandmates, and like went in a time where there weren't a whole lot of other people that we were interacting with, obviously, and what was that like?
Um, it definitely brought us closer together. Those are my brothers. That's my family. And if I didn't have that pandemic to kind of bring us closer together, I think I don't know. I don't know if it would have changed the dynamic, if we would have lost steam, if we kind of would have drifted, but we ended up just getting closer than ever. And they've been not only my band, but they've been my support group, which is really, really important. And lucky, just lucky.
Man, as somebody, I do a lot of work with, in my business life with artists and creators all together, and making art by committee is one of the most rewarding things that you can do. I think like just putting all of yourself as a group into something and seeing what comes out the other side and seeing how it changes because of all the different, personalities and experience. Such a rewarding thing. So I'm really excited to check out your new album when it comes out. I'll definitely be
Thank you.
gassing it up on
There we go.
Instagram for sure. For our campers out there who are either just learning music or picking up an instrument for the first time, or maybe have a curiosity about music, what advice would you give them, or specifically not just on the music side, but for somebody who wants to be a musician who's also living with diabetes? What advice would you give to those people?
Practice, practice, and be patient with yourself. It takes time. It takes a lot of effort, but never forget to have fun, because at its core, music is just fun. What does it do? It lifts you up. It can elicit all sorts of emotions, but joy is the number one. So let's have fun. Let's have fun when we practice. Let's have fun when we write. Let's have fun when we play.
It's funny. You didn't just pick up your instruments and just be as good as you are today on day one. You actually had to get in there and practice and like work at it and like really hack away at it sometimes and finally get to where you are.
Hours a day, my friend.
Yeah, that's something that I think is just so applicable, not only to whether it's music or whether it's some other art form, or whether it's going to school, or whether it's diabetes. Like, we're not going to get it all figured out on day one. And I think that incremental progress is something that in this sort of time where we can get instant gratification really any way we want. If you have a question, all you have to do is type it into Google and you get the answer right away. Yep. It's just an important thing, and it's very centering. And I think, back to that conversation about mental health and mindfulness, like celebrating those small wins, whether it's just, learning a song for the first time, or, playing a lick that you couldn't master a few weeks ago and you finally get to it, or it's putting out an album, or it's finding getting your blood sugar in range after, a meal that used to give you some problems, or an exercise that used to give you some challenges. Just really, I'd encourage everybody to celebrate those small wins. And, even today's conversation for me was a small win, because, I got to hear from another, awesome person living with diabetes who, just normalizing all of the things that we all go through. So, Austin, dude, I wanted to thank you for coming on the show today and for being here at Imagine Camp. This was an awesome conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. And remember, campers, it gets better. Okay.
Hey, I agree with that 100%. So campers at Imagine Camp, we hope you guys are enjoying these Imagine Spotlights. We're here every week as part of the ADA and Beyond Type 1 collab. So thank you so much for joining us today. And Austin, again, man, congratulations on the album. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.